Here's a little jaundiced. I don't know why it's yellow. It does that every once in a while. Okay. Okay, I think we're ready to go. So what we do to kick off all of these meetings is we do introductions. We have 17 people on the call right now, so we'll try and make it really quick. Just name where you're from, like the city that you're from, and just like an organization that you're connected to, or just something very quick. We don't have a ton of time, so we'll start with Dan Kalmick.
Oh, well, first, yay. All right. Caught me off guard there. Well, thanks, Jennifer, for putting this on. My name's Dan Kalmick, and running for City Council here in Huntington Beach.
Wonderful. Jonathan Ryan Hernandez.
Hi, everybody. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. My name is Jonathan Ryan Hernandez. I'm a proud resident of Artesia Pilar.
Jonathan, I'm sorry, it's really difficult to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can't. I don't know about you guys.
Okay. Some of them are giving me a thumbs up showing me that they can hear me. I'll go ahead and try again. Hello, everybody. My name is Jonathan Ryan Hernandez. I am running for Santa Ana City Council, looking to represent Ward 5.
Okay. Farrah Khan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Farrah Khan, running for Mayor of Irvine, currently a council member for the city of Irvine.
Wonderful. Lauren Johnson Norris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Johnson Norris. I'm running for city council in the city of Irvine.
Thank you. Glenn Grandis.
Hi, everyone. My name is Glenn Grandis. I'm running for city council for the city of Fountain Valley.
Okay. Janelle Welker.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janelle Welker. I'm a resident of Santa Ana. I'm running for Santa Ana City Council, Ward 3.
Okay, thank you. Natalie Moser.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Natalie Mosier, and I'm running for Huntington Beach City Council.
Oscar Rodriguez.
Hi, everyone. My name is Oscar, and I am also running in Huntington Beach for Huntington Beach City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Pauline Hale.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pauline Hale, and I'm happily running for City Council in Mission Viejo.
Thank you. Letitia Clark.
Hi, everyone. Letitia Clark, Mayor Pro Tem with the City of Tustin, running for re-election on the Tustin City Council.
Okay. Rich Persida.
Hi, I'm Rich Prosita. I'm not running for anything. I'm just dropping in.
Rich is also a new PDA chapter leader for, what is your region?
Los Angeles County.
Okay, thank you. Ross Chun. Ross, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Ross Chan. Good afternoon, everybody. I am running for my third term on the Aliso Viejo City Council.
Thank you, Ross. Spencer Kelly.
Hi, everyone. I am from Huntington Beach. I'm an activist, organizer, and educator there, and I'm happy to vote for anyone running in Huntington Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Tammy Kim.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'm Tammy Kim, candidate for Irvine City Council. I'm a finance commissioner for the city of Irvine, as well as education advisory council for Caudy Petrie Norris.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let's see here. Ty Phan.
Hi, y'all. Ty Phan. I'm a Santa Ana Planning Commissioner and a city attorney for numerous cities in Southern California. I am running for Santa Ana City Council, Ward 1.
Okay. I'm I'm not sure if I can see everybody. Hold on. I'm trying to figure out who else is in here. Dr. Kazi?
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name is Faisal Kazi. I'm running for Fullerton District 2. I'm a neurologist by profession and have been involved in various community service and nonprofit projects in this area.
Thank you. Chris Duncan?
What is up, everybody? Happy Sunday. Chris Duncan running for City Council in San Clemente.
Wonderful. Dr. Sunneburn? Dr. Sunneburn, are you unmuted? Well, let's come back to him.
I am okay now.
Okay.
So all I was going to say is I'm a peripatetic workhorse for everything. I'm not running for anything. I'm just a helper.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Sunneburn has been a member of PDA for years and years, and he attends as many meetings as he can get to, right? And he lives wherever he sleeps, right? Okay, let's see, did I miss anybody? I'm really trying to, the names shift around a lot, so it's kind of, did I miss anybody?
Yeah, Jenna, it's Lee Fink.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lee. I'm sorry.
You mentioned me at the outset and then forgot about me.
I apologize.
That's okay. I'm Lee Fink, and I am running for the Tustin City Council.
Wonderful. Is there anybody else that I missed? Because the names do jump around, and so it's hard to keep like a running track of who's in the call.
I put in a notice for, and I'm sorry she isn't on the call, but Danette for Orange City Council. I thought she'd be on, but she isn't. She's got another thing at 5.
Yes, I think Danette said that she was going to try and drop in and just talk about her candidacy for a minute. And I think Eugene is going to try and drop in too. And there's maybe a couple other people. So we may have people join here and there throughout the meeting. So as I said, I was kind of limited in my abilities, and my computer, the reason I started this meeting about 5 minutes late is because I couldn't even get into my computer to start the meeting. So I'm going to do my best to try and find the slides from last month so I can just go over like the basic stuff that we discuss at every meeting. However, my computer, like I said, has been acting like it's on dial-up. So if I can't get into the normal stuff, then what I'll do is just have like random conversation until we can get into the actual candidate forum. But I am trying to open it up right now and see if I can. Normally what we do is we talk about like the things that PDA does. First of all, we talk about like the history of PDA. So PDA was formed from the supporters of Dennis Kucinich and Howard Dean. And it was started by Tim Carpenter, and they came together to advance progressive issues while working with the Democratic Party to influence the party to advance progressive issues. And so that's kind of where the whole inside-outside strategy comes from, is that they're going to be working, the organization focuses on influencing the Democratic Party and supporting progressive Democratic candidates, but also encourages groups that may or may not be Democratic, or they're like nonpartisan or something, to help them in their activism. Our Revolution did the same thing, and we were formerly an Our Revolution chapter. We didn't let go of the name, but we are chartered with PDA. So one of the slides I always show is that we ask everybody to be a sustaining donor, and because change makes change, right? So I donate $5 a month. I have a recurring donation, and my limitation right now is I don't have my PowerPoint. So what I'll have to do is drop the link into the live stream later. What I'm going to ask for the members who are not going to be actually part of the conversation for the city council candidates, if you can help me by sharing the live stream, which should be going on our Facebook page right now, into local groups. And if there's I have not looked at the chat yet, and I can see that you guys have been chatting in there. If you have links to your candidate websites, if you have links to your donor pages, I would ask that our membership base, those who are not actually candidates or those who are not actually participating in the forum, could help me by dropping those links into the comments of the live stream as it happens, right? And help get all of these campaigns, get all of their information out, right? The other thing is I shared earlier today, I contacted all of the candidates to let them know like who's allowed to participate based on the criteria that they've given me of who I'm allowed to include, and also the topic list of what we're going to cover today, right? So while we're still kind of early in the hour, does anybody have any questions about that?
Hi, this is Glenn. Actually, I have a few. I'm not. I got the email, and I'm not exactly sure. You're saying this is broadcast out on Facebook right now, or it's going to be? And is it an actual forum, or can you give me some more details, please?
Okay, so right now, this Zoom meeting is being recorded. And as well, it is broadcasting to our Facebook page. So let me see if I can get you the link for that. I am not sharing my screen. However, oh wait, did I think I already did go live. Hold on, let me double check it. Pretty sure I already went live with this, but see if I can find the link and then I'll drop it into the chat for y'all. I apologize. It is literally like acting like it's dial up right now, and feel welcome to just like start, you know, fill the silence with some conversation while I'm trying to get through this.
What is your Facebook page so I can pull it up?
It is facebook.com/Our Revolution SoCal. SOCAL.
I'd like to take a moment to uplift Fred Jung for Fullerton District 1, and I don't know if he was invited to this or not, but he is somebody that I would think would probably should be here, but just putting that out there. He wasn't early endorsed by the DPOC.
I'm fairly certain he was invited, unless I could not get find an email. Was he one of the candidates that went to Los Amigos this week?
I don't believe so.
This is Faisal from Fullerton. Fred is, I'm running District 2. Fred is running right next to me in District 1. No, I was at Los Amigos this week. He wasn't, but Tammy, I agree with you. Fred is just an incredible guy and a colleague, and we're both trying to do the same thing in Fullerton. So yeah, let's just make sure he is informed of these recurring meetings. That'll be great. And
Yeah,
I can help do that. So.
I went through everybody who was listed as an endorsed candidate and looked at all of your Facebook pages. And if there was contact information, I included you on the email list. So if he had contact information, he would have been included. And then what I also did was try and go into various meetings and drop it in the chat that if anybody knows of any candidates that I missed, to please let them know that this was going on. So that's where we landed. Okay. So let's see here. So I covered change makes change. The other thing that PDA does is we once a month have what's called the letter drops. And that is when we are lobbying generally our congressional representatives on various topics. Because I don't have my PowerPoint available to me because my limitations right now, I can't show you what we're working on this month. So I will have to follow up the live stream with what we do. But generally we basically go to like Carly Ruda or Katie Porter or Mike Levin, so on and so forth, and either thank them for their support of a bill or ask them to co-sponsor a bill if they're not doing it already, to help us with legislation like saving the post office or advancing topics like the Green New Deal or advancing like healthcare, Medicare for all and such. So these are the things that we do. I can see that you guys are dropping links into the chat. Oh, I meant to give that to everybody. Hold up. Here's the live stream to everybody. So, so that is the link to the live stream that's broadcasting right now. If you have a page, if you have something going on, you can put it out on your campaign page. You can drop it into groups. You can do whatever you want to make sure that everybody can see the forum as we go through this. So now what I would like to ask is that if anybody, let me see if I can get into, is that right? Here we go. If there is anybody who cannot stay beyond 5, can you please raise your hand? Do you guys have the ability to do that right now? Okay, so Ross has raised his hand. Is there anybody else that cannot stay? Dan? What I will do is for those of you who cannot stay for the actual forum, I'm going to give you the opportunity to have a couple of minutes apiece to just talk about your candidacy, okay? And then whoever can stay beyond 5, will have the actual discussion about the topics that I emailed out to you. So why don't we go ahead and start with Ross, and when you're done, just lower your hand, Ross.
Oh, great. That's great, Jenna. Thank you for accommodating my schedule. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to take a couple of minutes. This, as I said during my introduction, this is going to be my 3rd term I'm running for on the Aliso Viejo City Council. And it's amazing, along with the issues that we're facing now due to COVID and business closures and unemployment, many of the same issues that I ran on originally 2 terms ago are still in existence in our city. And those really have to do with transparency on our city council. It has to do with participation and representation of our public. And that's why, since I was first elected, I've always sought opportunities at the regional level and at the state level to represent our city through different roles on boards and regional councils. And so many times I find myself alone in meetings with the League of California Cities or the Association of California Cities or SCAG, that I feel like we need to continue to press so that our entire city council is engaged and represents our city all across the county, the region, and the state. And so those are some very important reasons why I am running right now. And specifically, because of that situation, I have found that we don't have the level of engagement that I think is going to be important when we discuss things like public safety and the need to wear masks in our city during COVID, or a moratorium on evictions that also includes a moratorium on foreclosures, so that both sides of the equation are protected. And so for all of these reasons and many more, it's been incredibly important for me to continue to work on behalf of the community, on behalf of the citizens, on behalf of our schools who are struggling right now. As everyone knows, whether you have children or not, the schools are struggling and having a very difficult time. And it's gonna take a lot of effort from the community to support our teachers and all of our educators and our students and parents who need the help. And then our businesses, we need to make good decisions to help support our businesses. We've done this in Aliso Viejo by creating outdoor dining areas, but then also monitoring the crowds that may come to make sure that there's social distancing and safety for the public, and then finding ways of supporting and enforcing our requirement to wear masks. All of these things are very complicated. It's sort of a Rubik's Cube of decisions we have to make. And that's why it's important that every member of our council is engaged, and everyone that supports our council members realizes at the end of a meeting, at the end of every one of our meetings, we're given an opportunity to express to the public what we've done since the previous meeting. And ever since I was elected 8 years ago, I always take that opportunity to report out to the public that I've represented the public's interest, whether it's at SCAG or whether it's at the League or the ACCOC or Vector Control. I always make sure I report out, and so they don't have to go searching through the minutes of the meeting to find a statement. And when the rest of the council announces that they're just going to submit their goings on in writing, that makes another obstacle for the public to find out exactly what their elected officials have been doing for the last 2 or 4 weeks. And that's why, in the interest of transparency, I always report out my activities. And it's not to boast, it's not to look for the spotlight, but it is to reassure the public that I'm not just filling a chair, but I am actually working for them. And so for all of those reasons, I feel like it's imperative that I run again, I get reelected, and I bring the kind of leadership to our council that I've exhibited over the last 8 years. And in the areas of integrity, in the areas of public safety, of supporting education, of supporting our employees in City Hall, and finding ways that our businesses can recover from this pandemic, and then again begin to flourish, and look at how our community is going to be managed and maintained post-COVID. And fingers crossed that that's around the corner. But until then, we've all got to work very hard, very diligently and intelligently, using information from reliable resources. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to serve for. And that's why I'm running again for a 3rd term. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Okay, let's move to Dan Kalmick. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name.
All right, it's Kalmick, it's fine. My name's Dan Kalmick. I'm running for City Council in Huntington Beach. I really appreciate everyone taking their time today. I'm like 50-50. I have a very melty 1-year-old who may or may not need me to bail before 5, so I just kind of wanted to hedge my bet here. So if you hear somebody pounding on the door, it's my 1-year-old. Thank you all so much for taking the time this afternoon. Huntington Beach is going to be a really interesting race. I don't know if you guys have heard some big changes in what's been going on. We had 2 incumbents not file for re-election who are pretty conservative Republicans. So we have 3 open seats with Jill Hardy turning out. So it's going to be a crazy race. And we've had a couple of interesting folks jump in that I think you'll probably read about in the papers that are not going to be good for Huntington Beach in the long run. You know, I've been a planning commissioner for the last 7 years in Huntington Beach, coming up on 8 now. And so we've got a lot of interesting things coming forward, and seeing our council kind of be disjointed and really have this lack of leadership going forward in COVID. You're hearing it from residents that just need help and just want to know what the program is, what the story is, and there's just so much misinformation out there. And so our folks are ready for our council to take the lead in our side of the county, right? Santa Ana, Anaheim, Costa Mesa have really kind of picked up the ball, and Irvine, it seemed to have this forward momentum, whereas Huntington Beach is still fighting the problems from 10 years ago. So, you know, when I get elected, what I really want to do is to start to move that ball forward, right? We need to get our homeless shelter open. It's the number one thing that you hear from residents. We've been dragging our feet on this for 2 years. I think partially because we've got some folks on council that don't really believe it's the role of government to stand up their own shelter. But we need to get that open, and we need to make sure that we can enforce our anti-camping laws so that we can get folks the help that they need and get them through the system to become taxpayers again. It seems very simple, but for some reason we just can't get our act together here. And then we really need to focus in on what our COVID recovery is going to be. You know, we were at a candidate forum a couple of weeks ago. I went 4th, and the 3 Republicans ahead of me didn't even mention COVID in their opening remarks. It was pretty embarrassing. One of them was a former council member who didn't get elected last time and is running again in 2020. So it's really interesting to see what's going on in Huntington Beach. We have a really amazing chance here to really swing the balance. We could really use your help. If you've got friends that either are on council that aren't running for re-election, that could lend support financially or otherwise. We've got, as I said, 3 open seats this time. We've got a chance to get 2-3 Democrats elected this, and then we have 3 open seats again in 2022. So 2020, we get to get some folks elected. We got Natalie and Oscar here as well, fantastic candidates to be able to fill those seats. We get some good folks appointed to Planning Commission. We get a Charter Review Commission up, get those people visibility. And then we've got 3 more seats along with Kim Carr running for re-election in 2022. So we've got a real chance to Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach here and pull a majority of folks to really start moving this city forward. For attainable housing, right? We've been fighting housing for years now. Not even big housing, but like we got folks coming out to fight single family homes because my house was the last house we should have built. And I think that, what a lot of folks in Huntington you'll hear is that, 1960, 1970 was the best years of Huntington Beach, right? Our best years are behind us. I disagree. I think our best years are ahead of us. And then one of my final platforms that I've been working on is attainable broadband. Right now in our city, we've got 2 carriers. We have a community college. Our 2 carriers, one filed for bankruptcy back in May and the other one's Spectrum. And I know everyone loves both of those companies. I know some of you guys down in South County have Cox. Just imagine Cox, but like 10 times worse. With subcontractors. So that's kind of who we've got here. Cox is actually investing billions of dollars in their infrastructure, so they're actually turning it around. Spectrum doesn't care. So, we've talked to the community college board members. I know some of you guys have been on the call with the electeds from the DPOC and Dr. Lorraine Prinsky from the Coast Community College Board District and Bonnie Castry from the Huntington Beach Union High School District, along with Kim Carr, have really, been talking about how they're getting folks coming to them saying internet's too expensive. We can't afford it, or we just don't have it because the maps are all wrong. And so there was a great presentation a couple of Sundays ago from one of our assembly people that's pushing a bill through. But I think it's now beholden to elected officials at the local level to start talking about what used to be called community broadband or municipal broadband, but it's now called a public option for broadband. Broadband is a right in our community, and the fact that people are paying $80 a month for internet is obscene when the rest of the world's paying close to 25 for 10 times the service. We've got folks driving to library parking lots, sitting out in front of schools. They've got buses with hotspots in them to try to get folks internet. It's embarrassing that one of the wealthiest counties in the country doesn't have access to affordable internet throughout the area. So those of you guys that own streetlights in your city have a great opportunity. The vertical poles and actually have some infrastructure. There's a real opportunity here, and there's funding coming down the pike. So that's really what we want to accomplish in Huntington Beach. You'll hear from Natalie and Oscar as well, talking about some different issues, but also all trying to get to the same point of really, I think, moving Huntington Beach forward. Thank you so much for your time. And if you, as I said, any of you guys have extra volunteers or extra cash or have buddies that aren't running for council, Huntington Beach should be the target for the party and for progressive Democrats throughout the county to focus on. We've got really, really great opportunities here. 11 Republicans running. They're all going to split the vote. And we've got 3 strong Dems who've all been endorsed to be able to run for those 3 seats. It's a really, really, really fantastic time to be a Democrat in Huntington Beach. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I get to stick around past 5.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, Dr. Kazi.
Thank you all, and thanks for the opportunity to join. My name is Faisal Kazi. I'm a neurologist. I live in Fullerton, of course. I'm running in Fullerton District 2. I'm a father of 4. 2 of them are former foster youth, and one is currently being fostered with us. My kids go to elementary school here locally. Some 10 years ago, I founded an organization called Medical Network Devoted to Service, which has been taking care of charitably so medical needs of families that have poor access to healthcare. And I decided to get into the Fullerton seat race late. I think this is really 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. So I was rushing to catch up with the deadlines. In my district, so far, this is the only district in Fullerton of the 3 districts that are up for election. This is the only one that has 4 candidates. The other 2 districts only have 2 each. And of the 2 each in the other 2 districts, there's at least 1 DPOC endorsed candidate. And in my district of the 4, I'm the only DPOC endorsed candidate. 2 of the candidates in the race are Republicans. It is a Republican majority registration in the district by about 9 percentage points or so. So there'll be interesting dynamics how that vote splits, and then what opportunity it creates for us. There's no incumbent, and it's the first time Fullerton is having a wider district elections. And the folks that are running against me have been in Fullerton for 30 years, 40 years. One boasts about going to high school here. I moved here in 2012, and And the reason I moved here is I remember looking at this house to buy, and you don't usually meet the homeowners. So but I did get a chance to my agent was our agent was showing us the house, and we walked in, and Benny and Sharon was their name, and they just we strike up a conversation, and they said, why are you moving here to this town? I said, moving here because we're about to adopt our 2 kids, and we need proper access from work commutes, and it's good schools and a culturally rich environment. And at that time, I'll be honest with you, we weren't even sure if we were going to get the house because there's a lot of outside foreign money. It would just take basically people would put cash, as you well know in your cities, people would put cash offers within a week. House would be outbid and sold. But these 2 really took a liking to us. They really took time and worked with us for the next 2-3 months. They liked our story. So I always say, it was a good genuine beginning to move to this town, and it's been a blessing to be here. And one thing I realized compared to these folks who've been living here for a long time is that, I've had a chance in the last 8 years to serve the community far more intensely and intently than they do. Just when the pandemic hit, I went out and I put a letter in the mailboxes to all my neighbors, and I said, if anybody who is a single parent cannot go outside, go out to shop for their kids, please let me know. We'll go shop for them. If you're elderly and it's too risky for you, please call me. Here's my cell number. I'll go shop for you. And somebody posted that letter on Facebook, and then before we know it, we have a ragtag group of 30 volunteers on WhatsApp, and then we were able to provide 100 plus services to clients over a period of 2-3 months. And the idea is that you have to be there for your community, and that's my motivation of all my years of work, is that if I see a crisis, I jump in. And pandemic is one of those crises. I mean, if you're analytical and I'm sitting there and watching policies develop, and I've been involved in the community and advocating for them, I realize this is one of those dire situations where both public health crisis and economic crisis has merged to depression era level or more. And to come out of it, it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of energy and a lot of creative concepts. So this is why I'm here, to listening to your ideas. And one thing I would say for all my colleagues here is that if you think that the response of federal government was chaotic to begin with, wait till the immunizations are launched. Once immunizations come out, it's going to be chaotic. So if county usually handles it because county has your access points. And this is me putting on my public health hat. I would encourage all of us to really look at access points and see how we can advocate for our cities to get those requisite, vaccinations and get the most vulnerable vaccinated first. But my most, intense focus is going to be economic recovery. I think economic recovery has to be really robust. It has to be grand. 55% of businesses, as reported by Yelp, that were on Yelp according to Yelp, are not coming back. They're permanently closed, which means that 45% that are there need to come back in a much more grand fashion to fill that need up. Are our cities ready for that kind of a recovery? And so that public health and public infrastructure is what I'll be focused on. And you need your blessings, your support, your moral support. It's my first time doing something like this, but I'm in for the long haul. So I hope to work with you guys, exchange ideas on issues like homelessness and other such aspects, and looking forward to serve my community here. So thanks again, Jennifer, for the opportunity.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Dr. Kazi. I did just double check the page, and apparently it was not streaming to the Facebook page. However, I have been recording the meeting the entire time. We are streaming to the Facebook page now. So anything that was missed, I can bring back to the page later. So it should be, I think what I gave you guys in regards to the link was actually our other PDA meeting that happened earlier today. So I do apologize for that. We are streaming live now, and I am getting a recording of this entire meeting. So it will be broadcast in its entirety. Polly Hale from Mission Viejo has been trying to raise her hand for a while now and had privately messaged me. So I'm going to go ahead and let Polly go next.
Hi there, I'm Pauline Hale, and I'm running for City Council in Mission Viejo. You guys probably don't know me yet, but I hope you will. I am running to bring a progressive voice to the city, something that hasn't been heard in quite a while. I felt maybe I needed to prove that I was bringing a progressive voice. So I brought my Katie Porter whiteboard here just to show that I took my notes in a proper place. But I've lived here. I chose to live in Mission Viejo when I relocated to Orange County about 21 years ago. I chose Mission Viejo as my home, and I've seen the same 10 people on the city council for the last 21 years. They've pulled some tricks lately. If some of you have heard, we were sued about 4 years ago for voting rights issues, and they kicked the can to the point where nothing was solved by this election. And so they went behind closed doors and extended the term of 3 of the council members that terms were supposed to be 2 years that expired this year. So, but the 2 spots that will be open that I am working for are now 2-year spots. So I'm one of only, there's 8 of us in the election, 2 incumbents, 1 former council person, and of the remaining 5, I'm the only endorsed candidate.
Banner, chapter 35.
Oh my God, that was my,
Alexa,
Alexa, stop. That was very odd. I also feel that my city bought a golf course to avoid affordable housing. I have 25 years of experience in commercial real estate, and I understand real estate, contracts, land use, all of those things that'll help bring some logic and transparency to the city council. I'm in favor of workforce and affordable housing. I think one of the things we need to do is explain to the residents here that affordable housing, workforce housing is not supportive housing. It's housing for people who live and work in the city. If you're looking at a 70% of average household income number, I think our average household income is around $120,000. So when you're looking at that 70% and you say, I don't want those people living here, those are the nurses at Mission Hospital and the teachers at Saddleback College that you're saying you don't want to live in your community, along with your adult children who probably still live at home because they can't afford to live here either. So I'm going to keep an eye on what they spend on the golf course. It's already been 13 million. It's projected for 8 million more. I want to make sure that when people come to talk about things like masks, evictions, housing, that there's actually somebody listening to them. In the online council meetings that have been held lately, the city manager is rolling his eyes when anybody speaks against the powers that be. I'm going to champion workforce housing and affordability. I'm going to make sure less things are done behind closed doors where I can help it. And I want transparency, honesty, and a voice in Mission Viejo. So I hope you get to know me. Check out paulinehale.com and please support me wherever you can.
Thank you so much, Polly. Okay, and then Chris Duncan.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, this is an incredible time, right? As we enter the first day of the Democratic Convention today. What a time to be running. Congrats to everybody on this call who's running in this most important of elections. Yeah, just like Polly said, if you know anything about San Clemente, there's never been a progressive on city council in San Clemente, and not even close. And so I'm going to be the first. And what we need in a time like this is leadership, and we haven't gotten it. We've gotten dysfunction. And so I bring a track record of leadership to the position, and that means first and foremost taking the public health aspect of this seriously. We've got, if you know San Clemente as well, you probably know we've got national news for our anti-mask contingent, right? And we've had city council members actually pour fuel on that fire, which is monumentally disappointing, right? From a leader of our community. We should be doing the opposite of that. So I'm a leader, and I'll lead on those aspects where you might take some public hits, but that's what being a leader is, right? You take some personal hits, some personal costs, you stand up for what's right. So the public health aspect of it, if we're going to come out of this, we've got to take it more seriously. San Clemente has an affordable housing problem as well, but we also have some great stories. We have a community here, Jamboree, who does a lot of affordable housing development, has a flagship operation here called Mendocino. It's in my community in Talega. Nobody even knows it's here because they did such a good job of blending it in and having those folks be an integral part of the community. And so there's a positive story there that we can relate to, right? And we can do more of that, and we should do more of that. We need to do more. not just for our lower income folks, but just like Paulie said as well, to make sure that our future generations can live here as well, right? And so we've got to be a place, it's an aging city. We've got to be a place where young people and people of all economic backgrounds and disadvantaged folks can find a community to enjoy our incredible oceanfront lifestyle. I'll just close with this. This is a little bit fairly unique to San Clemente, although it's, you know, it's not just San Clemente, but the toll roads. This is run by a corrupt organization that has funded all kinds of Republican politics for years now. And we've never had anybody in San Clemente, and San Clemente is a town that doesn't like the toll roads, but we've never had anybody there who will stand up and actually do something about it. That's me. So I'm going to go I'm going to get on the board of the TCA, and I'm going to shut that place down. It's not just about the toll roads. We're going to shut the whole organization down. Stop that flow of money, get our freeways back to being free, stop these developer impact funds, which have caused senior housing costs to go up, and, you know, and work to put this organization into the past. So I think that's something that other folks down here in South Orange County could relate to as well. I want to thank everybody for their time and very excited to be part of this. Obviously, I think hopefully you can hear it in my voice. Really happy to be part of this great group, and let's do this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the forum. This is how it's going to work. Any candidate who is eligible to participate, meaning that you have either been endorsed by the Democratic Party of Orange County, or you at the very least are not running against a candidate who is endorsed by the Democratic Party of Orange County, may participate in the discussion. If you are just an attendee as a chapter member, what I ask that you do is if you have questions while they're talking, please put it into the chat. For the candidates, if you could please be mindful of the chat and look for those questions and just, you know, address them as they come up if you feel the need, because I don't want to have to interrupt people with these questions. I'd rather not have to field that. So each topic will get roughly 15 minutes. And I want you to manage this as though you are sitting down and having a group discussion. Everybody should be mindful not to go too long, right? So that everybody has a chance to weigh in, right? So those are the rules of the game. I'm going to do my best to manage this. And so we'll go ahead and get started. And literally, you're all candidates, so you can all weigh in on every single one of these subjects. So the first subject, let me pull up my list, is COVID-19 response, economic reopening versus public health. So let me just tell you quickly, obviously we have the Orange County Sheriff has said that he is not going to enforce the mask mandate because he's an elected official, and so he doesn't feel like he is accountable to anybody. And various PDs are managing things in their different ways, and we have a board of supervisors that has been manipulating the numbers to tell their own story and create this illusion that we can reopen and that we're actually less infected than we really are. So as city councils, they've also been pushing this down to the city councils. They're saying, we don't want to be responsible. We want to leave it to you, city councils, to be responsible for managing public health and safety. So this is my question to all the candidates. How are you going to manage the situation that we have a very politically charged environment right now that is affecting public health and safety? Don't be shy.
All right, Jen, I guess I'll step in. I think it's very unfortunate what the county has been doing as far as managing this crisis. From the Orange County Board of Supervisors to the sheriff, we haven't seen real leadership there. And that's why I think for us in our city in Irvine, we had to take the initiative of making sure that we were mandating masks, and not only mandating them, but also enforcing wearing of masks, and then putting fines for those that were not following the guidelines or the orders. And I think that's really what's needed at this time, is leadership that's going to direct the public on safety measures to protect everyone. And if we don't get them from the county, And we've seen it over and over again. I mean, the county got what, 300 something million dollars worth of CARES grant funding that was supposed to be used for this pandemic, and it hasn't been used properly. Not only has it not been used, but when we ask for our share so that we could do the work ourselves, we get a lot of pushback from them. And so we had to fight to get money for businesses so small businesses could get their grants. We've had to fight to get money for testing. And even now, we're the first city in Orange County that started our very own testing program because we saw that there was a need and the county was not stepping up to the call. And right now, we're funding that program from our budget in hopes that the county will support the testing program because it is their job. But the feedback we get from them is basically, we'll have to see if they fall under certain categories. And if they fall under those categories, we might cover those costs. Otherwise, we're not going to cover them, which is just unbelievable, especially with the amount of money that they've gotten from, the federal and state governments.
And I'd like to add to that everything that Farah has said. The response from the Orange County supervisors has been negligent, borderline criminal. The money that went for the CARES Act has not went to the communities. We currently have very little mechanism for contract tracing efforts right now. So we've got testing, you've got testing on one hand, next are the labs, but then you also have contact tracing. We have no real mechanism for that. And especially the Hispanic community and the Asian American community, we are literally dying because we don't have the language access skills that are needed for contact tracing. We have not been able to receive the grants necessary. So the most marginalized communities here in Orange County are not able to get the support that we need. So I'm working with a collaborative of nonprofit organizations to address this particular need. The organization that I work for, the parent organization, is a federally qualified healthcare center. And, everyone has been coming to us for COVID testing, but the labs, have also been, a big issue. And just seeing the irresponsible policies that have come out by the Orange County supervisors is definitely an embarrassment to the whole entire country, because other nations, when you look at international news and they point to Orange County, it's actually quite embarrassing when you look at it from that perspective.
Okay, Jonathan Hernandez was trying to raise his hand because he does have to jump off, so I'm going to just let him go next really quickly.
Hello, everybody. My sincerest apologies. I'm a single father. Tomorrow's the first day of school, so I do have to fix dinner. My name is Jonathan Ryan Hernandez, and I'm a candidate for Santa Ana City Council in Ward 5. And I'm running for City Council because I come from a neighborhood that historically has been synonymous with everything that is associated with the lesser. The first gang injunction happened here in my neighborhood. The STOP program was introduced in my neighborhood in 1993. The STOP program stands for Street Terrorist Offender Project. And the California Gang Database, since 1990, the city of Santa Ana has allotted over 10,000 members from my community to that California Gang Database. I was raised in this neighborhood and have seen all of the worst and best things that this community has to offer. I am running to remove barriers from education. I'm running for City Council to ensure that we remove barriers from education. I am going to look to create a citywide free Wi-Fi program so that we can support students and their access to education. I understand first and foremost as a father how imperative education is, but I also work for a mental health program through the County of Orange, where I work predominantly with youth from the ages of 13 to 24. And I know that education is a social determinant of our public health. I am going to look to support early childhood education programs, early learning initiatives, and ensure that families have access to that. I am going to have a data-driven approach to comprehensive public safety policies. I want to ensure that we have strong community-oriented policing, that we have comprehensive public safety strategies that are inclusive of all facets that make our community safe. Our green spaces, our development, our streets, making sure that our parks are well lit, ensuring that we have strong parks and recreational center programs, and that our programs are accessible and affordable for families. And lastly, I am going to fight for affordable housing. As somebody that became a father at a very young age, at the age of 17, my daughter is now 10 years old. It has gotten progressively more and more difficult to live in the city of Santa Ana. I know firsthand every single year the challenge that we face as a family to live in the city that we love and care about. I am going to champion affordable housing, rent protections. I project that we will still be amidst a pandemic, and I am going to look to extend a rent freeze in the event of that to protect our residents from displacement. At the end of the day, this is our first year having district elections. Somebody like myself wouldn't have had a winning chance before in a citywide election because of big money. My opponent, his name is Juan Villegas, and he's a sheriff, and the POA spent over $220,000 to get him elected in 2016. I'm running for office so that working class people have a seat at the table, and to remind the young people in this community that we are much more than we allow ourselves to think. This is about opening the door so these young people can come in here like they own the place. They don't have to worry about having a seat because we already held the seat. Now it's just a matter of when they do get to these seats, how much louder can they be? It's about teaching the youth that they can be much better than we can ever dream of, and I hope to have your support.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, so we're going to give it like 5 more minutes. I see Letitia wants to speak next.
Thanks, Jen. I just wanted to weigh in and share my frustration. I'm glad Farrah spoke first. You know, as a sitting council member, I've experienced a great deal of frustration and not being able to get certain things done. And I want to thank everyone who's on this call because it's an affirmation that we are seeing Democrats in every seat that we need filled throughout the county. And I can also attribute some of the success to the party in recruiting people and standing behind them. And this is also a group that is confirming that we need people behind us and to uplift us in order to win these seats. I've been a lone voice for a long time. My former colleague, Becky Gomez, who was on the council, was a lone voice for a long time. She's now a lone voice on the Orange County Board of Ed. That was kind of the trend for a long time, just being a lonely Democrat and not being able to get a lot done. We have an opportunity to change that even in the city of Tustin, but we are seeing that the small minority is the loud minority and is influencing everything throughout the county, including things that are detrimental like public health. I mean, we are seeing people getting sick and dying because the loud minority is winning. And so what it takes is a lot of bravery, a lot of courage to not only be that lone voice, but hopefully after November, we will be a collective voice of reasonable, sensible people who want to see progress in our community. And it takes some strategy and it takes some diligence to make that happen. But I just wanted to weigh in that it has been a long frustration of the few of the Dems that have been able to get elected. It's been lonely for a long time. We have an opportunity to change that. I hear a lot of good ideas on this call today. And I just wanted to weigh in that, you know, it's been for far too long frustrating. We have an opportunity to make some changes, but it does take some majority, some consensus at the dais to actually make those policy changes happen. And it can't just be philosophically anymore. We have to see some real changes happen in public policy, but we need the votes at the dais to do that.
Thank you.
If I could chime in about the...
Sorry, I'm talking over you. I was gonna say, I think you wanted to talk next. We got like 1 more minute.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the politics of it all because ultimately that's sort of the critical point of what Letitia is getting at too. And this question starts about how the response to COVID works. Well, everybody in Orange County knows, and now pretty much everybody in California and the country knows, that one of the biggest problems in public policy and public health today is named Don Wagner. And I don't know if it's because the first name is Donald or if it just is coincidence, but that he has been destructive in terms of public health and public policy in Orange County. The problem is Don Wagner just got reelected in March, and he won because Democrats did not vote for down ballot Democratic candidates. And if you look at his district, the Democratic congressional candidates, and that was mostly Katie Porter, but also a little bit of Gil Cisneros and a little bit of Lou Correa. If you look at that race, Democratic congressional candidates outpolled all of the other Republican candidates running against them. But in the supervisor's race, Don Wagner got just about the same number of votes, just about the exact same number of votes as the Republican congressional candidates combined. But Ashley Aitken, the candidate that we were trying to get to win, the Democrat in that race, got fewer votes by about the same margin that she lost the race by, just because people did not vote. So it wasn't that people were switching over to vote for Don Wagner or people were splitting their tickets. It's that Democrats voted for president, whether it was for Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden or Elizabeth Warren. They voted for Democrat for president. They voted for a Democrat for Congress, and then they stopped voting. So the most important thing we can do to get that political power, to change the dynamics, whether it's in San Clemente or Santa Ana or Tustin, is to make sure that Democrats are voting for the Democratic candidates. Because in a lot of these places, whether it's Aliso Viejo, whether it's Tustin, whether it's Anaheim, whether it's Westminster, we have more Democrats who are registered voters than we do Republicans, but the Republicans dominate the city councils. That's true in Orange County now on a 4-to-1 basis on our Board of Supervisors. So it's so critical that in order to have a positive COVID response, in order to have a positive anything response, Democrats are going to have to vote all the way down the ticket.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, let's go to the next subject, which is, so we're going to talk about criminal justice reform, our rights to protest, and how law enforcement is behaving, right? So we've had the Reopen America protests at Huntington Beach, Laguna Beach, San Clemente, and our police departments seem to be very, very happy with these people, right? But they didn't really like our Black Lives Matter protests, and they sent in like what is it called, SWAT teams. They have not been enforcing things like fireworks ordinances down here in South Orange County. It was like a war zone down here on July 4th. And just the hostilities within Orange County have been getting very high, and we could see that there's obviously some very much some favoritism going on, and this has been something that people of color have been complaining about for decades and decades and decades. And with the George Floyd situation, and now we're all protesting and stuff, it's coming more to the forefront, and there's a lot of discussion around how do we change our law enforcement so that they are serving and protecting our communities rather than harassing and ticketing and creating more problems than we should have, right? We want to protect our civil liberties. So what is the answer to that? And I'm going to give the first opportunity to Lauren Johnston Norris, because I know this is an area that she likes to talk about.
Thanks so much, Jenna. Yeah, I wanted to share my thoughts and my experiences because I come from a background working in the criminal justice system for the last 17 years and working with kids and families in this system. My view is that it's not just enough for elected officials to say that Black Lives Matter. We must expect that the folks that we elect are going to drive systemic change when they get into office. And just to share with you my background, I've been working for 17 years on behalf of marginalized people, people that nobody wants to have represented as a lawyer, people who don't want to do this work. Well, most of the lawyers don't want to do this work. And every day in my job, I've seen the broken criminal justice system, the way that it exploits racial and economic inequality. And many of you know I was viciously attacked in the past for this work. You know, it's as a white woman doing this work, not everybody would think I would understand, and I of course can't understand the experience of a person of color, but I can tell you that my first experience with law enforcement as a child, it was as a child, when the SWAT team held my family at gunpoint and arrested a relative of mine. And that forever shaped my understanding of government power and violence. And so in college, my first protest was when I was 20 years old for Irvin Landrum Jr., who was murdered by police in Claremont. I started volunteering with juvenile gang members at CYA and went to law school to fight this broken system. And I can tell you as a lawyer firsthand how my clients who are Black and Latino people are stopped more often by police, searched more, treated violently more, held without bail more, treated disproportionately more harshly, and so on. And how private prisons and the prison industrial system and politicians even use Black bodies as currency in this system. I had the opportunity to finish up a case. I worked for 5 years on the Townsend gang injunction out of Santa Ana pro bono. We fought that case for 5 years and won. It earned me the Chicanos Unidos Social Justice Lawyer of the Year award last year. And right now I'm representing a protester who was arrested by the police for civil disobedience out of the George Floyd protests pro bono. And I share this with you to just give you some of my perspective and share who I am. You know, we must be out and protest, we must march, but we must also, once elected, change the conversations and bring more diverse people to the table, because that will shape the policies. I formed on my campaign a diversity action council to bring diverse peoples to the table. We're going to talk about all of the issues that people of color, disabled folks, LGBTQ folks experience in our community in terms of discrimination, and start working on a plan to have a commission to address these issues should I be elected. You know, Irvine is not immune. We have a community police force, but I know, you know, Councilmember Phan worked to make sure we got body cameras, and that's moving forward. Efforts to abolish the chokehold. And I look forward to working with Team Irvine. Give a shout out to Team Irvine, Farah running for mayor and Tammy Kim running for council. Folks like us are gonna make sure that our values are represented, that homeless people, that mentally ill folks, that substance abusers are not automatically criminalized, and that resources are available to them. You know, I just was watching a video of Katrina Foley got protested today by some of the anti-maskers. It's unfortunate, you know, unfortunately, serving in the public eye, you're exposed to these kinds of things. We want to make sure that anybody who's protested is treated fairly. And when I hear, you know, and when I see that they're not, we have to stand up to that. And I just want to share one more thing with you guys that you may not know about as we're talking about the county supervisors, but did you know that there's a plan to add 900 mental health beds to the music facility in Irvine? That's a jail. And that will cost the county about $300 million. I've been working with some activists to try to stop this development, and I'd ask you to join me in doing that. We need those resources for community services and not to further criminalize people in Orange County, the most vulnerable people. We don't need that money to go to the sheriffs as a giveaway. We don't want that in our city. We're a progressive city. We don't want that. So I hope you'll stand with me in opposing that expansion. And thanks so much, Jenna, for having me.
Thank you. Who wants to go next?
I would like to go next.
Okay, Jonathan.
First and foremost, Lauren, thank you for the critical work that you do. It is essential to the safety of our community that we have leaders that are compassionate like yourself. It's crucial. What I'm looking to do as somebody that is running for office, and God willing I get elected, I am going to look to uphold the democratic society value of accountability. I think that accountability is essential to policing. And one of the things that I'm looking to introduce is a police oversight commission, an oversight commission that not only holds them accountable internally, but externally. So that way we have a thorough investigation of police misconduct that this commission has the ability to subpoena. But I want to take it a step further. I want to ensure that our commissions are felon friendly. Because if we are going to champion progressive values and redemption and accountability, we need to ensure that everybody has a voice at the table. And in the city of Oakland, this is something that helped them tremendously in getting their police chief fired. during the Fruitvale shooting. And this is going to be essential because Santa Ana is a community where 31% of our residents are under the age of 18. We're a hyper-criminalized community. We have the least amount of libraries in Orange County, and we've sent the most amount of people to prison. And 1 out of 10 kids in Santa Ana graduates college. So it means we can get them there, but what happens to the other 9 that don't graduate? A lot of them fall through the cracks and end up in the prison system. And I think that it's essential to ensure that we have people that have experienced the justice system sit on these commissions so that they can better help us in creating policies that protect families. And furthermore, having a trauma-informed approach to creating programs that address the root causes of crime and how to best prevent them. Because unfortunately, Santa Ana, public safety has been singular to only policing. And police can't stop a bullet. Police can't stop an individual from getting beat up and robbed on the street. At that point, it's too late. We need to start getting to the root causes of why people are doing the things that they're doing. Because at some point, these adults that commit crimes were children, and they were in the system, and we had the opportunities to help them, but we either did not have adequate resources or we just simply didn't have the right people in positions of power to help them. Santa Ana historically has had both. Our neighboring city of Irvine, a beautiful city, part of what makes that city impeccable is that it's properly invested in. And the residents, when there is a crisis that happens, we've paid close attention to how you respond to these crises and how you invest in response to them. We need to start responding and investing in our families, especially right now. Our families are hurting, and we need to ensure that we are not only creating public policies that hold police accountable, but we have a trauma-informed approach to doing that as well.
Hi everyone, Phan here, Santa Ana Ward 1. I really want to speak on this topic because I've personally experienced crime growing up in Santa Ana. And actually, I just want to put a plug in for Lauren Johnson Norris, because when my godnephew was arrested during the Black Lives Matter protest, she was the first person I called. And she really helped us out there. But, you know, in Santa Ana, there are a lot of problems with public safety, and a lot of that has to do with trust between the community and our officers. Being Vietnamese and growing up in the Little Saigon community, there are almost no officers in Santa Ana who speaks Vietnamese. So often we rely on translators, third parties to have that connection. So how do you police, how do you bring public safety to a community you cannot communicate with? And so that's really something that we need to focus on and that we need to grow, because we have thousands of Santa Ana residents who are Vietnamese who don't have that relationship with our officers, who growing up in Little Saigon and coming from a country where your government is the oppressor, you don't have that trust already in the system. So it is very hard to build that relationship and to ensure that when there are crimes that happen or incidents that happen, that we're able to, go to someone. So that is something that is really important to me, running in Ward 1, because that's the ward that was districted to settle California Voting Rights Act lawsuit to ensure that we have Asian American representation on the Santa Ana dais. And we've never elected a Vietnamese person to the city council before. The second thing I really want to address is, when we're talking about public safety, like Jonathan mentioned, it is supposed to be a broad-based approach, right? I have lobbied for juvenile justice reform and helped pass bills to ensure that when our juveniles are arrested or when they are sentenced, that we are putting the right types of categories or analyses on what their sentencing is. But we have to apply that to our local government too. So for example, for me, when you have responsive and good community policing, if a kid is screwing up, frankly, tagging or doing any of those things that a lot of kids do, our first step isn't to ticket and criminalize. Our first step is to talk to their families. Our first step is to say, hey, mom, this is what they need to do. They need to clean this up. Let's make sure that we do it together as a community. But you can't do that if you don't build the trust first. So I really think that investing in community policing and growing that, ensuring that we actually hire local officers from our communities is really going to make a big difference. And I really hope that we can also specifically hire local Vietnamese speaking officers so that we have infiltration, I shouldn't say infiltration, but penetration into that community so that we have better community policing.
Thank you.
I would, this is Tammy Kim for Irvine City Council candidate. I'd like to echo a lot of what Ty has said as well. That is something in Irvine that I'm deeply concerned about. We have 70 different languages here, and people that come from a variety of different countries. And the thing that concerns me the most, and I've had discussions with IPD about my concerns, is, you know, ensuring that there's language access and cultural competency within the Irvine Police Department to address the needs. And, you know, another thing, you know, we're talking a lot about Black Lives Matter, which is extremely important. A little about me, I actually grew up in Flint, Michigan, and I went to an all-Black school until 4th grade, and then moved to an all-white school. And I distinctly saw the difference of the attitudes towards the police and how policing was done. And then my parents, we then moved to Baltimore, and my parents had a store in East Baltimore, which was in the heart of the war on drugs. And so I saw firsthand how policing was done in these various communities. But going back to Irvine here, you know, one of the things that we haven't really talked about, or people haven't talked much about, was that the fact that Don Wagner in 2018 attempted to use the Irvine police as an extension of ICE. When he tried to remove SB 54 or remove Irvine as a sanctuary city. So we have to always be on guard of how the police are used. And I think he probably left now, but Jonathan, or Ty talked about the trust that you have with the community. And when that trust is gone, Irvine is a safe city because of the fact that the majority of residents, not all, but the majority of residents feel safe enough to approach the police, regardless of their immigration status, regardless of where they're at. And that is why we have a safe community, unlike maybe Santa Ana or other places. So but that is the way a safe environment can happen, is when you have that community trust. But when you are attempting to use the police as immigration enforcement, as an extension of ICE, then that becomes problematic. And that there would have probably turned Irvine into the most unsafest city in Orange County had that happened. And so I just wanted to sort of bring that up, because I feel the immigrant experience is not really being discussed in this conversation around community policing. So.
Thank you, Tammy. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna give Natalie the next minute, and then Chris, and then we're going to switch topics. So let's go ahead and wrap up this topic.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me. I agree with so many of the people who have already spoken, but specifically with Tammy and Ty talking about building trust, and also Lauren talking about changing the conversation. You know, trying to become a council member in Huntington Beach, we've had a lot of challenges over the last number of months and have ended up in the news for reasons that I would not want us to be there for. And, you know, one of the things that our council member, Kim Carr, did, I'm also the chair of the Huntington Beach Human Relations Task Force. So we worked together to try to really create and provide a platform to our underheard community members to be able to talk with the police, with those people who they felt, you know, negatively impacted them. So we actually even had a youth forum where we had a restorative justice circle, and they were able to go around and express what their perspective was from some of the protests and events in our local Black Lives Matter protests. And I think that that was really a great example of what can be done in trying to bring people together. You know, our police chief sat there and listened to what everybody had to say. He really didn't get much of an opportunity to express his own thoughts. I do think that they need to have an opportunity to express perspectives as well. But I think it was a great opportunity, especially for our youth, to be able to see how things can work in our community, and also to see what we can do systemically moving forward to really create more accountability and transparency. Another thing that we're working on doing now is a Huntington Beach Community Summit, where we're going to have 5 different virtual sessions where people from the community can come together and talk and share their experiences on moderated panels. So that way we can start to really kind of bridge this divide that has come into our community, because it is certainly there, but we're really trying to find a way to reach out to everyone. And that's challenging because much of the time we only kind of end up reaching a certain part of the community. So I think the opportunity of, I've been an appointed member of a commission or task force versus actually being on the city council is I would have the opportunity to make these types of things more of a priority and utilize, some of the more influence and power to really encourage our police to truly speak to the community and for our community to be able to speak to them.
Thank you. Chris, you want to go?
Yeah, and I will be quick. I'll keep you on your time here, Jenna. I can speak to this issue, having spent a lot of my career in law enforcement, actually. And I'm going to give a nod here to James Bacon, who's going to be working with my campaign, but he makes a good point. How do you hold the sheriff's department accountable for those cities that contract with the sheriff? Here's what you do. You don't rubber stamp their budget. You call them out and you tell them what's deficient, and you tell them they're not going to get everything that they're asking for if they don't make some changes. And that means holding the highest levels accountable. So your chief of police services saying, I want a different chief of police services then. I demand that. And here's what you can do as citizens. Elect people who have the guts. That's a very difficult thing to do. Sheriff's deputies, very, very powerful union. Sheriff, very powerful. Elect people who have the guts to stand up for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next topic. And this one, this particular topic gets dodged a bit because people at the city council level don't think that they have a lot of influence in this area. However, you all do, right? So politics works in such a way that if we are able to get something in at the federal level, then they allocate funds to the state, and then the state allocates funds to the county, and then the county allocates funds to the cities, right? So we know it all flows down, and we know that politics is very grassroots. Politics is local, and so we have to have the right people in place to have the policy get enacted at the local level. So this next question is, how will you help us get through things like pandemics, but not only through pandemics, through the overwhelming medical debt that people are facing, through the poor policies that we've gone through in the past that have caused us, for example, I am recently unemployed. My COBRA would cost me $650 a month. The max payout of unemployment is $450 a week. I also have a mortgage. I have utility bills. I have everything else, but that's going to be over 1/4 of my income to pay for COBRA so that I still have healthcare coverage. And if I catch COVID-19, can actually have that covered and not end up with a $2 million bill after staying in the hospital for 2 months or however long it might take if I don't die, right? So the next question is about how will you at the local level support healthcare reform so that people are not burdened with medical debt and that they get the care that they need so that we're not letting people just die because they can't afford healthcare?
Can I start with something on that, Jenna?
Of course you can, because that's how I've set the forum up. You're supposed to just jump in.
So fair enough. So It is difficult because on healthcare, we really need the Board of Supervisors to be doing a better job on CalOptima. There's a lot that we can do. So I'll set out one thing that I'd encourage everybody to be thinking about if you get elected. It's what I'm going to be working on. But more and more, there is a movement to something called health in all policies and adopting a community health and welfare element in your city's general plan. So much like your city's general plan has a housing element, an economic development element, all of the different elements through which there is a view of every policy decision that you make is viewed through those ideas and the goals that you lay out in there. There should be an element that talks about health and wellness, because that's critical. And that's going to go to, does your city have enough healthcare facilities? Does your city have enough healthcare providers? Does your city promote health and wellness through having not just medical facilities, but having sufficient support for homeless services, for food and nutrition services, food banks, and things like that? So to start with, as we develop policies at the municipal level, if we're thinking about health in all policies in the same way we do with a number of other decisions that cities make, it becomes a baseline and another sort of the way to view your policy making through that lens. And it also allows you to take an inventory of what your situation is in the city, because just like if you have a housing element, one of the things you have to do is assess your housing. So if you have a health and wellness element, you have to assess the health status and the wellness status in your city. So it is a start to make sure that as a baseline, that becomes something that every city is making part of their policy determination. So there's a lot more there. We need to be pushing along, helping support our members of Congress as they move to expand healthcare. We need to be pushing the county to expand Medicaid. And I think, Jenna, I saw in your background something Medicare for All, a poster. But there can also be Medicaid for all. CalOptima could, with some minor support from federal legislation and state legislation, even if there is not a Medicare for all that passes in the next Congress, it can be a healthcare provider on the exchange. And it becomes a de facto public option that is already there, that is already providing the healthcare. So all of these things that we can do on the city level to help advance the efforts that our state and our federal legislators, fortunately, are now working on.
Thank you, Lee. You know, one of the problems right now with the ACA exchange is that they base your income on what you earned last year. I'm currently unemployed. I do not make what I made last year, right? So I do not qualify for any of the subsidies that would make the healthcare plans lower for me. So that's now Chris, you have your hand raised. Is this a topic is that just from last topic, or is this something you want to weigh in on? Oh,
Letitia wants to speak.
The last topic, yeah, sorry.
Okay, so Letitia wants to speak, and then Janelle wants to speak. So let's go Letitia and then Janelle.
Okay, thanks, Jenna. I wanted to piggyback on what Lee said, that having a plan and those policies in place are really vital. But we often confuse kind of what our role is as local government, and we think that healthcare is not necessarily our responsibility. And I like what Jonathan said earlier in that we need to think at the local level about social determinants to health, which I also like to put into a category of social determinants of quality of life, right? The city has an ability to think about not only access to healthcare, but access to food, access to housing, access to quality after school programs and daycares. We have the ability to do that. I always have been frustrated on the Tustin City Council in that we have over 20% reserves, which is beyond our policy. We always talk about a balanced budget, yet we have some inequities in our city. You know, we have some people in neighborhoods that are very vulnerable that we aren't creating safety net programs for. And that's very hard to, drive through those neighborhoods every day and knowing that we have tons of reserves. So really at the local level, we have an ability to create more safety net programs that help the most vulnerable, or folks like you who may not always be in the most vulnerable category, but you've had intermittent times in your life where you need more assistance than others. And having even things like we started a rental assistance program during COVID to make sure that we are preventing families from becoming homeless, not waiting until they are homeless and then addressing them with the needs that they have, but making sure that they don't even get to that point. So I think that is really the role of local government, and we have the ability to do that, especially cities that are experiencing a decent economic time and decent budget. So I really do think we have to look into that. Even in Tustin, we have a federally qualified health clinic. I think Tammy mentioned that earlier. That's crucial as well. That's our partnership with the feds, allows us to get grant money into the city. And our FQHC, they provide holistic services. So they're looking at your nutrition. Where are you getting your food? Do you have access to money to buy healthy food? And they're looking at things that are very pervasive in ethnic and low-income neighborhoods, like diabetes, like high blood pressure and things like that. So along with mental health as well. But I think that really is the role of local government, to look into safety net programs and identify how we can help our most vulnerable population. And that's gonna help greater access to healthcare over time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Letitia. And I agree with you. The city council is in a tactical role in regards to healthcare. Okay, so we've got about 5 more minutes for this subject. I have Janelle queued up next, and then Farah, and then we're going to move up because we have 2 more subjects after that.
I think that this COVID-19 pandemic really highlighted for the city of Santa Ana what economic disparities there are between populations, and how a lot of the Hispanic population here in the city has not been able to stay home during the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of them are essential workers. A lot of them work in industries where they are front and center with the public, or they may be out in agricultural settings trying to pick the food that we put on our tables. And a lot of them have contracted COVID-19. City of Santa Ana and the city of Anaheim have 8 of the zip codes within the 2 cities have double the rates of COVID-19 positive cases compared to other cities throughout Orange County. And that disparity just shows that we don't have a good system in place here to protect our residents. And the County of Orange has partnered with both cities. They partnered with the school districts to create the Latino Health Equity Initiative. And it's an imperfect program, and it's being created out of a dire need. And it's just showing that we need to partner with every level of government, including school boards, including federal government, to get these dollars down so we can fund these programs. And showing that we need better messaging out there to our residents. Because what I've been hearing as someone who does work for the county is a lot of people don't get our messaging. And I think that's something that the city council needs to also get on board with, that we need to have universal messaging across every level of government. Like, this is a real pandemic. These are the ways that you need to stay, have clean hygiene, to stay socially distanced from one another, to keep your businesses closed, but to reach out to us if you need things, if you need to go to the supermarket, if you need, let's say, Wi-Fi or any other things that you wouldn't be able to get because you are isolated right now. And I think this equity initiative has allowed us to see what these needs are, but we need to do better. And I know that the County of Orange is creating the Be Well OC program and the facility out in Orange. I'd like to see a facility like that for healthcare as well. If we can have a public-private partnership with all of the large healthcare clinics and hospital groups, I think we can also create a wellness program and eventually probably a health hospital hub that can also take in patients that don't have any insurance at all, or maybe have Medi-Cal or have private insurance. So that way everyone across every stratum of income level can receive not just mental health care, but physical health care, medical care as well. So I do think it's within our power to do, and we do need those voices to stand up, and we have good models out there. We just need to create more access points for those folks and individuals, and ask all of our governments to collaborate with one another to create these programs.
Thank you, Janelle. Okay, Farah, wrap us up.
Absolutely. And you know what? We had heard some great ideas. I just want to say that it is so important for everyone at the local level to understand that they do have a vested interest when it comes to healthcare. It's not up to just the state or the federal governments to take care of our constituents. You know, when we look at healthcare, whether we convert to healthcare for all or whatever process there is, you know, the better the system we have, the less the cost on our budgets. So we have to think of it that way too. When you're trying to present this to your community or to your council colleagues, you have to sometimes use your money factor. And the money factor is, if we don't have better healthcare, we're looking at constantly paying it into it from our budget when it comes to our employees. And not only that, but when you're looking at, you know, everyone loves to talk about quality of life when it comes to campaigning, but what does that even mean? Right now, we're in the midst of this pandemic. As we're coming out of this pandemic, we're gonna see a lot of people that have lost their health care. What are we doing to get them back on track? Are we gonna have a bunch of people without health care in our cities, or are we actually gonna be out there fighting for them? So just keep that in mind as you move forward.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to go on to we have 2 more topics left. So I'm going to go into the next one, which is environmental concerns, Green New Deal. How do we solve these problems? Obviously, we have a lot of stuff going on in Orange County, right? So we've got the nuclear power plant that was decommissioned, in the aughts, that's down at San Onofre. We have nuclear waste that's buried under our beach in 1/8 thick canisters that wouldn't even pass European standards. And we have politicians arguing over whether or not where we're going to ship it, because the other states don't exactly want our waste, right? We also have the Poseidon plant that they want to do desalination to produce water, but it could potentially cause some environmental problems for the coast. And then we also have, I think the GOP wants to drill right off the coast of Laguna Beach, which is crazy to me. I can't even, you guys. But anyway, so we have a lot of environmental issues in Orange County. It's different for each of you based on where you're running and where you live. But I'm going to give you roughly 10 minutes to talk about the environmental issues in your area. Farah, do you still have your hand raised, or is that from the last one?
Sorry, that's from the last one.
Okay, so whoever wants to jump in first, and then you guys raise hands and I'll help you fill through it.
I guess I'll just start. I mean, climate change is an existential threat to humanity, and I firmly believe that. I believe the majority of all residents here in Irvine, they want good environment, they want their open spaces, they want clean water, they want it all. And I believe even, I would say mild GOP, they want a good environment. And so I really firmly support signing on to a climate action plan. We need to make sure we get that through, that there's no kicking the can and this staff member and that staff member. And you know, that we make it happen. I'm looking for Irvine to really lead the way for innovative green technology. I believe we have the research capabilities and the companies to be able to do really cool stuff here. And I'm really looking at us to be an economic engine when it comes to green business. So I know these are a lot different than people, you know, in Huntington Beach and on the coast. So I'll let you guys speak.
Thank you, Tammy. Okay, so up in the queue, we've got Chris next, then Lee, then Farah.
Okay, let's see. I think everybody, yeah. Let me lower my hand here so I don't. Yeah, I feel obligated to speak on San Onofre since I am in San Clemente. I think the first thing is we're very fortunate to have a great congressman down here, Mike Levin, who's taken this very seriously, taken the bull by the horns, really made things happen. The first step is getting a report, right? So that all of the contingencies are out there. He's done that. So it is largely a federal issue, but that doesn't mean that that city council members in South Orange County cities cannot work together to develop plans, contingencies, so that we're prepared if something does happen. And also, I mean, if there isn't going to be a federal response to dealing with the nuclear waste that we have at not just San Onofre, but all these nuclear facilities, then we'd have to. I think we should look to work with the state folks, find some place that's not on the coast, that's not near delicate ecosystems and large cities and a military base, to store this long term. It's not gonna work where it is, that's for sure. And as city leaders, we can certainly put pressure on our state folks to find a solution. So that's my take on that.
Thank you, Chris. And I assume that was your daughter in the background, and she's adorable. It's unfortunate that Ross wasn't able to stay for this call, because when I was on the phone with him on Friday, he said that he went to a meeting at the Ziggurat about the waste removal, and he says that he was the only official there. But I told him, in fairness, I hadn't even heard of this meeting. It apparently happened last summer. So apparently it wasn't well advertised, because I know there's a ton of us in South Orange County that would have gone had we known about it. So I'm going to move on to Lee next.
So I'm obviously not in a coastal city, but I do want to give and so I can't speak as well to some of the coastal issues, but I do want to speak to something that we should be doing that, and what Tammy is saying about Irvine, even moderate Republicans are working on, because Irvine, through the push of the Democrats on the city council and some sense of the Republicans there, have been moving ahead on community choice energy. So the power on my block, literally the power on my block was turned off 2 days ago on Friday as part of the state's first flex shutdown in 12 years because of excessive heat and because of a lack of power available on the grid. So ironically, we're being tested by the problems of climate change, and the solutions are things that we can come around, and we can have a cheap and reliable and renewable source of energy if we go to community choice energy. And Irvine is leading the way. It has asked other cities to join in a joint powers authority to do that. I would like to see that, Tustin join in that effort. What the Irvine studies have found on this is that it is in fact cheaper than what you're paying Southern California Edison now. The cities can have more control over where that comes from. It would create incentives to put more, our school districts, a lot of them have put solar panels in parking lots. It would create more incentive to do that in parking lots and public spaces and municipally owned spaces, generate more energy and generate clean energy from that. And Tustin has not been able to do that yet because Letitia is all alone there. So I'd encourage cities that are nearby Irvine to come, December, when hopefully a few of us are taking office, to join in that effort and break the monopoly of Southern California Edison and buy into a system that's going to have renewable energy, that's going to reduce the cost, it's going to help us solve our problems.
Thank you, Lee. Let's move on to Farah, and then we're going to wrap up and move to the next topic.
I'll be brief because I think Lee just explained everything that I wanted to explain. So thank you, Lee. But I do want to share that, we did have our mayor go around telling people in different cities that they would have to spend $15 million to join our JPA. And that is completely false. The entire project is costing us $10 million, which is a loan to the project. And we get that loan back once we start generating those revenues. And so, to be out there and trying to kill this project has been her major concern right now. And I've just been going around talking to council members in different cities, letting them know what the facts are. Right now, we've already spent about $150,000 to not only form the JPA, but also produce the implementation plans that we're going to submit to the CPUC by December. And it would be great to have some cities join us. We're going to be moving forward regardless, but it's wonderful to have more cities on board because we do want to push towards that renewable energy goal, not only the goals set by California, but individual goals that we may have to be a little more aggressive. And at the end of the day, provide cost savings for all our residents and businesses. Second thing is, if you guys are looking forward to implementing a climate action plan, I initiated that in our city and had it passed, and also linked it to our general plan. It's very important to do that because as a standalone by itself, you could have a turnover of council and they'll just cut it out and get it done with. So make sure that it is connected to your general plan so that it's basically there for perpetuity, no matter if you're there or not. So two important things. And I, again, hope everyone learns more about CCE and its benefits.
Thank you, Farah.
Sorry, which will only happen, you guys, if Democrats, if we take control of the city council. It will, otherwise, none of this will happen. And it'll affect all the other surrounding cities. So please support Farah Khan for mayor, Lauren Johnson Norris for city council.
Thank you, Tammy. Yes, and Tammy too.
Yes.
So before we move on to the next subject, Natalie raised her hand kind of right before the buzzer, and I really do want to hear from Natalie because she's running in Huntington Beach, where Poseidon is a proposed, or is it already going on, or is it proposed? I don't know, but go ahead.
It's still proposed, fortunately. So they just pushed it off again at their most recent meeting. So, you know, we still need people to be out there and be active about that. That discussion, because Poseidon cannot be, so we have to keep pushing against that. But one thing I wanted to talk about in addition to Poseidon, obviously the impact of Poseidon off of our coast would be so detrimental, and we just absolutely cannot let that pass. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about related to the general plan was that we have a greenhouse gas reduction plan in Huntington Beach that is related to our general plan. But the challenge is, without any teeth, enforceable or measurable strategies that are there, if it's just a recommendation, or if there isn't really solid data and targets there, then we really won't be able to make sure that we are succeeding or accomplishing our goals. So that's one of the things that I would like to do, is really to you know, provide some teeth in our plan and go beyond just a greenhouse gas reduction plan, but looking at it in a more holistic way. To see, you know, what else do we need to do locally, including things like, frankly, you know, protecting our waters, which would ultimately bring in this issue with Poseidon underneath that as well. I think that is it with that. But then really the final thing is that we should also have really more of a climate action plan and not just call it this greenhouse gas reduction plan, and really utilize best practices. And one thing that was said before is that, you know, in coastal cities, you know, everybody wants, they live there because of the weather, because of the environment, because of a clean ocean. And so I think that it is a nonpartisan issue. I think it's one that everybody can agree upon, that we want to protect our land and our water. And we have to put that into our plan to make sure that it happens.
Okay, thank you so much, Natalie. I appreciate that. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We have one more topic. And for those of you who were kind enough to stay through the entire meeting, I will give you the same offer that I gave to the early ones who had to leave, right? So I will give you a chance at the end of the meeting to just have a minute to talk about your candidacy and close us out. And because I think a lot of people have dropped off at this point, so there's not going to be a ton of you doing this, right? So it won't go too long. We are going to go a bit over, but that's okay. What else do we have to do? We're sheltering in place, right? So this is our final topic. Our final topic is affecting all of Orange County. It's affordable housing, the homelessness crisis. So let's go into this for a second. We used to have a 6-mile long encampment of homeless people on the Santa Ana River, and that happened because all the cities decided, the sheriff's department and everybody else decided that there was nowhere in Orange County that the homeless were allowed to be except the river. So they pushed them all to the river, and then it became so obvious that we had a tremendous homelessness problem that they said, oh gosh, we got to get rid of this because people are getting like live streams and stuff of it, right? So they gave them 30-day vouchers to stay in motels. They evicted them from the river, and now they live in parks throughout the county. This is all over the place. It has greatly increased since the 2008 crash. It has greatly increased because of the opioid crisis and because of sober living homes and all of the other factors that contribute to homelessness, right? But we also have then the Disney employees where 20% of them were living in their cars because they weren't earning a living wage, but they wanted Disney on their resume. And anybody who lives in Orange County knows why it's important to have Disney on your resume, right? So let's talk about what are you going to do in your individual cities, because I know some of our homeless activists have talked about how when they put together city solutions, they're concerned about other cities utilizing their resources. And this is particularly South OC. I'm from South OC, right? We've been accused of it quite a bit, that we are sending our homeless to other cities to deal with it. So what are you going to do in each of your cities to address the problems within your cities rather than rely on county solutions, because you can't rely on the Board of Supervisors. We can't rely on them. Or how would you hold them accountable, right? But what will you do to make sure there is shelter and not just camping space for the homeless and affordable housing? Because Trump wants to get rid of affordable housing.
I'll start, since this affects Santa Ana more than any city in the county. So as I mentioned, Phan, Santa Ana City Council Ward 1, the first thing we need to do is every city needs to step up and bear their fair share of this crisis. Santa Ana has the lowest median income in the county. We have the highest number of homeless individuals, but we know that the vast majority are not from Santa Ana. And that is a result of historical reasons. One, the jail is located there, and anybody who's ever been involved with the criminal justice system understand that when someone is brought to the jail and they are finally let free, they're not given a bus ticket to go back to their original hometown, their city, right? And now a lot of the bus lines don't even run late at night when many of these individuals are finally let free. So that's the first thing. We need to hold, each of our cities need to be accountable, because these are our residents. These are your family members, your community members, your neighbors who need a place to stay. And if every city in the county just did their fair share, if it's 2 people or 2 beds in Aliso Viejo or whatever other city, we could fix this problem. We could deal with it. But when you just rely on the poor city in the county to take care of everyone's problems, it's not fair. And growing up in Santa Ana, it's something that we see everywhere we go, particularly in the central part of town. And it's affected our residents, not just our, livelihoods, our quality of life, but it's dangerous for some of our students, because the encampments happen on sidewalks, on the street. They have to walk around them into the street to get to school, all of these things. And so Santa Ana, I feel, have really taken a step, because we've opened, the Link, which is a temporary shelter, but we've also invested funds just, I believe, last month to open more beds for our residents. We're the ones who are investing not just our, public safety funds, but also our general monies into, working with this crisis. And it's really pushed our city to the brink, right? We've had to sue other cities in the past, and that's not something that any city would want to do and to engage in litigation. But if that's something that Santa Ana has to do to ensure that everybody, takes their fair share, that's going to be something that the city council will continue to, I believe, follow and make sure. I think the other thing is that we really do need to put pressure on the county. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it where residents go to the county and say, we do not want this, and they back off. And it's really hard because the county has meetings at 9:30 in the morning on a Tuesday when most of Santa Ana residents are at work, and they don't have the luxury. We don't have the luxury of taking the day off. But I think that every city, as an equity issue, as Democrats, as progressives, we have to hold our residents accountable and say, opening up 10 beds here is not going to affect X city as much as opening up 500 beds in the city of Santa Ana. So I guess it's a bit of a call to have all of, all the candidates here and everybody running on a progressive platform to really say, this is us too, these are our residents too, and that we're willing to pitch in to help solve this problem.
Thank you, Ty. Okay, so we're going to go to Lauren Johnson Norris, then Janelle, then Letitia.
I just want to say that we have so many smart, passionate folks on this panel, and I really hope I get the opportunity to work with you, Ty and Lee and Natalie, I know is so experienced in this area about these issues. I mean, I'm just beyond impressed. But I think it's important to consider that we're probably going to be looking at an uptick in homelessness following the COVID pandemic. We have folks who may have had a moratorium on eviction that I understand is expiring or has expired, and we're going to be looking at an onslaught of homelessness as a result of that, probably within the next 90 days. These issues are so complicated. We're not just struggling with homelessness in Orange County. It's a statewide issue, and in other big cities, other cities are struggling. And so I don't want to say there's easy solutions for this. You know, I know there's housing first and there's whatever it takes, and there's lots of different models, but homelessness is such a complex issue. It may involve substance abuse. It may involve mental health. It can involve physical health. We've got families living in cars as a result of evictions because we don't have strong tenant protections. And so it's such a complex issue. We are going to need the best and brightest minds to work on this. But I will say that, you know, I do think that it's time that we end criminalizing homelessness in this county, not just in Irvine, but if someone, you know, in my city wants to help the homeless person who's living on the bus bench, the only thing they generally know how to do is call 911. And when we do that, we are setting up a situation to deal with a social problem with a criminal justice response. And we should have another alternative to that at the city of Irvine, where folks can call and maybe speak to someone who's not law enforcement, who's a social worker, who is trained to address the issues these folks are experiencing. You know, Irvine was sued, we got out of that suit, but I do think we still must do more, not just as compassionate people, but as people who want to make sure that every family has a strong social safety net so that we do prevention from falling into homelessness. And we're going to have to consider all of the options, I believe, as we look in 2021 and see an increase, I expect, of homelessness, to make sure that all the options are on the table, be it low barrier housing, being it permanent supportive housing, but we can't have folks living in their cars, living at the park, being in danger. These are actually quite vulnerable residents of our community. I think we have to step up as Democrats and as leaders to make sure that everyone is safe and that they have an opportunity to thrive. And, you know, we do have a land trust in Irvine. We should be seeking out more funds. We should be working with the partners who will help us continue to build. But I really look forward to working with so many of you on these issues. I know they're complicated, but I know when we as Democrats want to help and get things done, we can. Unfortunately, the county's been sitting on so much money that could have gone to services over the last decade. It's only exacerbated the problem. We have to hold them accountable. I know we will. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, so we're going to go to Janelle, then Letitia, and then Natalie. I think I got everybody.
Lauren, your point is so true. I see in 2021, we're going to see an increase dramatically in our next point in time count. So that's going to be January is when we're going to be hitting the streets again and trying to survey all of those individuals in a snapshot moment on 2 nights. How many individuals are sheltered in place? How many individuals are unsheltered? And how many individuals are living in their cars? I worked at the Disneyland Resort as a server, and I knew my fellow cast members who did live in those cars. And we lived off of tips every single day because about 40% of our entire tip charge was taken out of our paycheck. So we had a $0 paycheck at the end of a week. So we lived straight off of tips. So I know that it's too high, it's too expensive to live here in Orange County. Unlike maybe my parents or my grandparents, didn't expect to be able to afford a home. And I know a lot of millennials are leaving Orange County. And so unfortunately, if we don't try to retain are folks who have skills and talents. We're going to be losing a lot of our workforce. That's going to be able to help us bring in better business in industries and be able to solve this crisis. I think that it's not really a popular solution, but we're going to really need to change our zoning regulations and have higher density housing. And it's going to change the landscape of Orange County, how we're going to look. You know, previously, before, Orange County was where older Republicans came to escape LA. And now it's a diverse community. It needs to reflect that. We need multi-mixed use residences and businesses on top. We need to make sure that students have workforce housing, or students have access to housing by the universities. We have workforce housing for our largest employers like the Disneyland cast members, universities like UCI, Cal State Fullerton, professors. And I think that on the high end of it, we also will need more permanent supportive housing for our most vulnerable populations. And it costs about $500,000 for one permanent supportive housing unit with all the wraparound services. So I think we as candidates and as future council members have that opportunity to sign on to the Orange County Housing Finance Trust, if our cities haven't, to join that JPA, and as a unified front, go up to Sacramento and ask for the millions of dollars that we deserve to build those permanent supportive housing units out. So it's been very great to hear all of you are on the same page with me, and I hope that we can all accomplish this work once we're elected in office.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Janelle. So now we're on to Letitia.
Okay, thank you. When I ran in 2016, I remember being on a panel debating about some of these issues, and my opponents at the time mentioned that there was no homelessness issue in Tustin. And a couple of years later, then we were dealing with erecting an emergency shelter, and largely because of the lawsuit, because we were forced to deal with the issue, and we got a lot of pushback from the community, just filled council chambers, you know, week after week. And all of the fears that were brought up were completely dismantled because none of those came into fruition. And what that taught me was that the city has to be brave and courageous in this and show as an example what affordable housing can look like, that it does not look like what all of the, you know, we can't feed into the fears. And so it's incumbent upon us to have safe, clean, attractive housing, mixed income. A lot of people have mentioned these diverse portfolios of housing, transitional, permanent, supportive. We need all of it to show our community that these can exist within our community and we can still enjoy the quality of life that we know all too well in our cities. There are too many assumptions that everything will change once we integrate more diverse types of housing into our community. But if we don't, then we're facing a greater problem. I completely agree that we all need to participate in our fair share, but if we can also work collaboratively. But we shouldn't stop working on this issue because our neighbors don't want to work on the issue. And I can attest to cities from further down south literally asking us if they can purchase beds from us in our emergency shelters so that they don't have to house their own homeless population. So that is a real concern. It's a real issue. And having to keep those cities at bay while we address some of our own homeless families is a challenge. So, you know, the only thing that I would mention is when you continue in this work, once you get elected, it's just really important to fight for these diverse types of housing, partner with people like Jamboree Housing, Family Promise, who can bring some money to the table and be that partner and that voice that you need to combat the loud few that will try to dismantle this type of housing in your community, because we've seen it time and time again in Tustin.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to close out this subject with Natalie. And then I put in the chat that any candidate who wants to have like 1 minute to pitch your campaign at the end of this meeting to go ahead and raise your hand, and I will call you in the order that you appear in my participants list. And I think obviously we're running long, and I do apologize for this, but I'm going to excuse that by the fact that I had some technical difficulties with my laptop jumping into this. So let's close out with Natalie on this subject, and then I'll give everybody who stuck with me the whole time, and I appreciate all of you for sticking with me, 1 minute to pitch your campaigns.
Thank you so much, Jenna. So in Huntington Beach, I've been working with an advocacy group, or really a community group, Homeless United Huntington Beach, for the last 3 years. And over that time, we've been working to encourage the city to do the right thing. And like we heard from Letitia, a lot of community members would come out at city council meetings and fight against, any type of assistance that would be offered, especially with a shelter. Number one, because they didn't think that the problem was big enough, and they thought it would be a magnet for more homeless people. And they also thought it would be too expensive. And we all know, through various studies that we've heard from, that it's ultimately less expensive, if we're looking at it from an economic standpoint, to help house people in lieu of just letting them be on the streets and utilizing our services. And if you look at it from the other perspective as well, beyond the economic perspective, it's a compassion, it's a human rights issue. So we need to make sure that we're taking care of people at their most vulnerable moment, but we also want to make sure that we do that with, with wraparound services, with qualified and proven homeless shelter operators, and then go beyond that as well. Right now we are finally getting a homeless shelter in the city of Huntington Beach that is scheduled to open in early November. We've been, working for a shelter for a long, long time, but the shelter, of course, is only an emergency solution. It's not a long-term solution, but it is something. One of the things that I think is great about what's been done thus far, and then we need to continue, is that our city staff, so our city manager, has really done an incredible job of working with the people in the county who can make things happen. And I think it's important that we encourage our city staff and also the councils to develop strong relationships with the people who can actually make creative and innovative things happen. For instance, in our city, we are using a sprung structure, which is a permanent tent structure that the county had actually already purchased. So we're trying to utilize resources both from the state and also those that were provided to the county, and really trying to make just innovative solutions happen. We had a meeting with the director of care coordination on Friday morning, and to hear him talking about these things, really, he was a therapist or a social worker, and he is trying to approach things the right way. But we have to acknowledge that, again, a shelter, it takes courage to take any step with regards to the community with homelessness, because people are afraid. But ultimately, the shelter is step A of 100 steps. So how are we going to move things forward from there? And we ultimately, rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, affordable housing, but also prevention as well. But how are we going to, get those solutions passed? And really, it's going to be like Janelle talked about as well, is joining the Housing Finance Trust and getting the money, working with solid partners like Jamboree Housing, to push things forward as well. And really, it really is just the courage to do hard things and to make choices sometimes that people are not going to like in the community, but they'll like it later. I'm almost done. 2 of the people that work with me in Homeless United were former mayors of Huntington Beach back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And one of the things that they've always talked to us about is the fact that it takes a really long time to get things to pass that are important in the community. It took them over 10 years to get our park approved, or to get our library approved. And it's going to take a long time to get these things done too, but it's worth the effort. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Natalie. Okay, so we're going to conclude the meeting by giving all the candidates who want to take advantage of this an opportunity to speak about your campaign for 1 minute and just kind of close this out. And the current lineup, oh, it slipped down. The current lineup is Farah, Tammy, Lee, Ty, Janelle, and then Letitia. So that's where we are right now. Obviously, more candidates can raise your hands. And what I'm going to ask to save time is that rather than wait for me to jump in and say who's next, if you could just say, okay, take it away, Tammy. So let's start with Farah, and then when you're done, say, okay, Tammy, it's your turn.
Got it. All right. So again, Jenna, thank you so much for hosting this forum. These are some interesting times we're living in. And we're faced with a pandemic, which has led to economic certainty for so many. Right now, I'm running against a mayor that has been in office for about 20 some years now and is really out of touch with the community that she serves. And so for me, it's really important that we have leadership that is not only going to do the work that is at hand, but also look at the progress that we can be making for our future generations. This is a time where we can review where we are and what we need to do today in order to come out of this pandemic and this economic and social crisis successfully. We need leadership that is looking ahead and not behind. Leadership that is going to take initiative and lead, not wait for crowds of people to demand it. I remember many times being in those crowds, speaking up at council meetings during public comments. That's where I began my journey into public office. And today I am just so excited about running for mayor with a team that is with me, with Tammy Kim and Lauren Johnson Norris, because we really want to bring more change into this city. We want to make sure that we are putting residents' concerns first. And as a council member, that's really all I base my decisions on. And I have committed to keeping the council a place of respect, honesty, and integrity to do what's best for our community. And my votes are a testament to the work I've done. Again, this is a critical election year where we need leaders that believe in inclusivity, leading with a vision, and being actual public servants. My vision for the next 2 years will be focused on supporting our residents and small businesses through this pandemic, keeping our community safe and healthy, addressing the economic uncertainty we face, and finding solutions to maintain our staff and services to keep our city safe. Working towards initiating new technology and resources to cut our costs and generate additional revenue, such as the Community Choice Energy Program, and being a voice of the community, a true representative of the public. So I'm looking forward to addressing our current and future needs responsibly and effectively while holding on to a vision for a world-class city that is a model for innovation, sustainability, and civic engagement. Again, you can reach me through my website. It's farahforirvine.com. Thank you. Up next is Tammy Kim.
Thanks, Farah. Who am I passing it off to next? Just so I know. Is it Lee? Okay. So I just want to give a really, for those who don't know, if you don't mind indulging me, I just want to give a high-level overview of Irvine right now. So Irvine, we have 135,000 voters that we need to reach in an at-large election. So the top vote getters, top 2 vote getters for sure, and we need to get Farah elected, so we have actually the opportunity for 3 seats. The maximum contribution limit for the city of Irvine is $530. And so we have the largest reach with one of the lowest contribution limits within all of Orange County. We have currently 14 candidates that have come out to run for office. We really need your support to help sort of weed through the noise, to really help Team Irvine here to get elected. And so really my decision to run for Irvine City Council was rooted in my concern for our community. I've been, like Farah, it really started out in speaking out at city council meetings, doing work within the community. So I look to leverage my experience as a business owner and as a nonprofit leader here in the city of Irvine, and as a community advocate and a mom to serve our residents. Because I believe that the city council needs to uphold and reflect a very strong vision of a city that is well-planned, innovative, and sustainable, supporting a high quality of life for everyone in the city. And I feel that I bring a global perspective and a bold vision, a vision that we need for the city. And when I'm elected, I will ensure that Irvine leads the way on issues around social justice and environmental protection and access to affordable housing and economic opportunities. And our city, I believe, deserves a representative with an eye on the future who will build Irvine and continue to lead the way when it comes to innovation. So I really look forward to having your support. I am looking for volunteers. So please go to Tammy Kim, Tammy, Kim.com. Thank you so much. And Lee.
Thank you, Tammy, and thank you, Jenna, for hosting this forum. Thank you for everybody who's watching this here and watching this hopefully on Facebook. It is really important. You mentioned at the top of the meeting, Jenna, that the organization Progressive Democrats of America was founded by Tim Carpenter. Tim Carpenter was a progressive activist in Orange County before even before I was a kid, because I remember him when I first got involved in Orange County politics 32 years ago, when I was but a lad of 12 years old. And Tim was a force always trying to push Orange County in a way that would have made it safer and saner and more fair and just. And the good news is that we are finally seeing that that is possible. We saw that that was possible at the congressional level 2 years ago. 4 years ago, we saw that it was possible that Orange County would vote differently for president. In 2020, we're going to do that at all levels, but we need your support. What I said earlier today is so critical, and I know that Progressive Democrats of America really focus on progressive Democrats, but all of us here who are running for office, all of us who get involved in democratic politics, we're pushing for just about the most progressive aspect of what we can achieve, as what can be achieved as is possible. And we know that the folks that have been in office for Orange County in the 32 years since I first got involved as a kid, and before that, they're pushing for the opposite. And so we need to make sure that that word spreads, not just at the top of the ticket and not just at the congressional level, but at the Board of Supervisors, at the mayors, at city councils, at the water boards, at the school boards. And so I really appreciate the time, the support, and making sure that everybody knows that about the candidates that are running at all these levels. Like I said, Don Wagner's been the worst supervisor imaginable at this time, and he won re-election not because people like him, not because people think he's doing a good job. Irvine voted against him. Irvine knows him better than anybody, and they keep voting against Don Wagner. But because people just didn't know that there were alternatives running, and so they stopped voting down the ticket. So please vote down the ticket. I, as a Democrat, as somebody who grew up in Tustin, want to make this a place that is better, that is safer, that is sounder, that we can rebuild our economy, that after this pandemic sort of abates, that we can work to help the kids and the parents that need after school programs, that need opportunities, and to address these problems that we have, that we can address. One of the great things about Orange County is that we have all the resources and all the potential to do this. So please get out the word. You can go to www.leefink.com to help me sign up to get involved. You can go to www.Tustin Democratic Club to help me and Letitia Clark and Becky Gomez and Allison Demichelis and others who are running in Tustin. And we've got phone banks running every Wednesday through November 3rd. So we really would like and would hope to have your support. And I want to turn it over to my good friend, Phan.
Thanks, Lee, and thank you everyone for having me here. Viet Phan for Santa Ana City Council Ward 1. You know, I grew up here in Santa Ana. What a lot of people don't know is because I'm an attorney, I'm a local government attorney. I represent a lot of cities here in Orange County as well as the desert and in LA, that I'm an immigrant. I'm a refugee. I came here when I was about 2 with my family because I was born near a refugee camp in Thailand when my parents left Vietnam so that we can have a better life. And in Santa Ana, that is a common story. That is not something different, but we do not have someone on the dais that represents that community. And when I mean that community, I mean the Vietnamese American community. We have thousands of residents who don't have a voice. There isn't someone at City Hall who speaks Vietnamese. That means someone like my mom cannot go to City Hall and ask for help because no one can communicate with her. That's a problem. That's an equity issue. For a city that is a minority majority issue, city that is democratically controlled, there's a problem. And so that's why I'm running. I'm running to bring representation to a community that has no voice, no representation, and no access. I'm bringing my education and experience as someone who advises council members, appointed officials, and city staff every day to help my hometown. And that means fighting for housing attainability. Santa Ana is majority renter, and many of us cannot afford housing in the city. I grew up, my first home was sleeping in a garage because as refugees, we could not afford housing in Santa Ana. And fighting to protect that housing for our residents is of utmost importance. And it means also building so that we move forward in the future in areas that will help with economic development, that brings residents up and help us move to the middle class. Second issue is public safety reform. We've talked about what we need to do in Santa Ana to build trust, but we need to invest also so that we can actually have a better functioning public safety system in Santa Ana. And of course, the last thing, at least for me, is economic development. You know, we've talked so much about how COVID is affecting small businesses. Well, Santa Ana is basically a small business mecca of Orange County. At least I like to think so. You know, we have immigrant-owned businesses. Mom and pop shops are the lifeblood of Santa Ana. That's what makes us special. That's what makes us interesting. And that's what we need to protect as we move forward with development in the city. And so we need to make permitting easier for small businesses to open. We need to have language access. We need to invest our COVID funding and city funds to help with renovating and helping small mom and pop shops just deal with the changes with how, you know, businesses function today, you know, having the gram. All of those things are so important. I want to make sure that with my experience and my background growing up here, that we can bring that to Santa Ana. And finally, as a progressive, we need to meet people where they are. The vast majority of Vietnamese residents in Santa Ana are Republicans. But how do we move them forward? How do we bring them into the fold? And that means speaking their language, means speaking directly to the issues that they care about, and helping them understand over time that actually this is a progressive issue. We have progressive solutions to that. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to build a bridge, to build a consensus. And I really hope all of you can join me at thaivietfan.com to donate or to volunteer, because we definitely need your help to make history in Santa Ana. Thanks. Oh, and next is Letitia. Oh, excuse me, Janelle.
Thanks, Ty. And thank you, Jenna Beck, for inviting me back. This is my second time here at Our Revolution SoCal, and it's always great to see you and everyone on Facebook Live. Again, my name is Janelle Welker. I'm running for Santa Ana City Council, Ward 3. Ward 3 is a very interesting ward. It's the most north part of Santa Ana, and it's a very diverse ward. So we do have a mix of economic backgrounds and racial backgrounds here in this ward as well. And I think I'm very representative of that Ward 3 as a half Caucasian and half Vietnamese American young millennial woman who's now gone from a working class family to a professional working at the County of Orange as a policy advisor. And I was only ever afforded those opportunities because I was a union member at Local 50, Unite Here Local 50 at the Disneyland Resort, working as a cast member, making tips every day to pay the bills and keep the lights on. And then during that time, my family was able to help me to achieve my dream of going to college. I was the first college graduate in my family. I attended community college, went to Santa Ana College, and then graduated from UCI. And during the time, I think I was able to help my family stop home foreclosures from cars being repossessed, because as an immigrant family, they really looked to me to help them navigate through our government system and our judicial system to keep basic necessities and the roof over their head. So I know exactly, unfortunately, what our citizens and residents are facing right now in Santa Ana in terms of this COVID-19 pandemic. And given my background working for protecting working class jobs as a former strategic researcher at the Orange County Employees Association, protecting the jobs of 18,000 diverse county employees across Orange County, I understand the way that we need to protect workers across every business industry and every sector of Orange County and of Santa Ana. So I really hope that everyone who's been watching pays attention to the Santa Ana races, because this is going to be a very, very big election. We have the opportunity to change this landscape and make sure that the city itself, even though it's the county seat, does not have the reputation of being the most friendly city towards its residents, and not being the city that really takes care of its residents the way that it needs to. I invite you to all, if you have the resources, donate $5, $10, and if you have the time to phone bank, please visit my website. It's going to be vote, V-O-T-E, Welker, WELKER.com. And next up is Letitia.
Thanks, Janelle. For those that don't know, I'm a third generation Orange County resident. My dad was born at Hoag Hospital. I was born at Garden Grove Hospital. And I learned the special attributes of the Tustin community when I was a student at Tustin High School. And I was a student class president and a cheerleader and homecoming queen, and just learned how the city of Tustin embraces our own. And I went away to college. I attended Xavier University in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I cut my teeth during Hurricane Katrina in politics while working for New Orleans City Hall. But when I moved back to Orange County and decided to run for the Tustin City Council in 2012, to run in 2016, we made history here in Tustin. I was the 6th woman elected to the Tustin City Council, the first African-American woman to be elected to the Tustin City Council. And in 2020, we also have an opportunity to make history. We have 3 Democrats running for 3 seats. And while I'm very proud of some of the accomplishments that I've helped to gain during my 4 years on the council, there is much work to be done. We need leadership on day one. And as you can tell from this very robust conversation, there are some progressive issues that we have to be courageous to push forward. And we need the support on the dais to make sure that we get through the naysayers and the pushback that we might receive in the community to get some of these things done. Lee Fink and Becky Gomez are running on the ticket. I want to see them both get elected, and I'm also asking for support from the rest of the community, from all of the progressives across the state and the nation to help us gain this local power that we need in Tustin to really make a difference and really establish change. So I thank you for listening, and I really just appreciate and admire and am inspired by all of the candidates on this forum tonight. Jenna, thank you for putting this together. It was well worth my time. I appreciate the invite, and thank you for it. And so who am I passing this on to? I don't think I saw. Oh, Lauren.
Me.
Yes. Hey, Lauren. Team Irvine.
Team Irvine. Thank you, Team Tustin. Thank you so much, Jenna, for this fantastic forum. It's been a great use of time. And I really enjoyed hearing from everyone, and I look forward to you sharing it online again in full. So again, I'm Lauren Johnson Norris, running for City Council in Irvine with Team Irvine. I'm a mom of twin 7-year-old girls, an attorney. I'm a city commissioner. I'm also an elected delegate to the state party and e-board member running for City Council. So I am running because it's time for us to have progressive change in Irvine, to really represent the values of our residents and to stand up for working families in our city against special interests and what right now is a Republican majority on the council when we have a 15% Democratic voter registration. So we need to move forward with more affordable housing, inclusivity, more childcare and services for our residents and working families, and public transportation to combat traffic and climate change. I have a climate action plan, a transportation plan, and I'm working on a diversity action plan, and we'll move forward for a diversity commission when I'm elected. While I served on the Community Services Commission, our city added 2,500 childcare seats, and while I was chair of the commission, we fully funded childcare for the first time in recent history. Next, we must make sure every Irvine family has access to affordable childcare, which we can do if we prioritize working families in our city. Because of my leadership on these issues, like all the other candidates here, earned the endorsement of the Democratic Party, also Congresswoman Katie Porter, our State Treasurer Fiona Ma, Planned Parenthood, and many others. But what I will share with you about my values is that I've come to be the candidate most supported by progressive labor in the trades, including the LAOC building trades, Teamsters Joint Council 42, UFCW, communications workers, and Unite Here Local 11. Our campaign to date has raised enough money and has enough supporters, I think, to get the message out. We could always use more support and I'd be grateful for that. I'll share the link in the chat. We're at laurenforirvine.com. You know, I am convinced that Team Irvine will be the change when we win our seats. We will make sure that families are safe and that they're stable and that every kid has the opportunity to thrive in our city. So I look forward to your support. Thank you for any voters who are watching. And thanks again, Jenna, for your time putting this together. And thanks to the panelists also for sharing their thoughts. I look forward to serving with you. Next, we have Natalie.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, Jenna, for hosting this. It has been a wonderful use of our time, and it's been really amazing to get to know so many other amazing candidates, so I've really enjoyed it. My name is Natalie Mosier, and I'm running for Huntington Beach City Council in November, and I am a proud mom of 2 kids, one in elementary and one in middle school. I'm a homeowner, a business owner, I'm the chairperson of the Human Relations Task Force, and I'm also a committed community leader. And I'm running because I want to serve our community. I care deeply, and I know I have the experience, the curiosity, and the moral imagination and leadership to do the job and make a real difference. And because I believe the bottom of the ballot is just as important as the top of the ballot. And we've really seen that in the last number of months. I'm a native of Huntington Beach. I'm adopted, grew up here all my life in Huntington, went to local schools. Like Janelle, I was the first in my family to graduate from college. I put myself through Orange Coast, then Cal State Long Beach, majoring in history. And then throughout that time was working at Schools First Federal Credit Union, at the time OCTFCU. I had planned to be an educator and decided in the end, I loved the company that I was working at and kept working my way up. So with that, I got more and more business experience, and throughout that time was able to kind of establish a path where I worked in all areas of the organization. And what I found is that I tend to be somebody who is a connector and is able to help communicate and really connect the dots from one part of a company to another. For instance, I worked in our IT department talking to our engineers about what the people on the front lines wanted. And a lot of people can't have that type of a conversation. They can't kind of think in both worlds. So that's something that I was able to do during that time there over a decade. I earned my MBA as well, finished up there as a director of organizational performance, working on organizational metrics and identifying really how we tell the narrative of our story, you know, with data, and also kind of move us forward. And those are things that I think that we can really do as a city council member as well. We really need to be able to better communicate to our constituents what's happening, identify real teeth in our policies to make sure that we're able to get to that next step. Backwards, I ended up leaving that job because I wanted to start a family and start my own business. So moved forward with that and have done that for over a decade as well. I had breast cancer, diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015. And, you know, that was a very, just, you know, it's a horrible thing to hear those words that you have cancer. It's nothing I ever expected. But what I found was it was an amazing time to be able to really sit back and really rethink everything. It was 2015, by the way. So fast forward, I healed, everything worked out. The community really came together for us during that time and showed us what Huntington Beach can be, that we can be a community of compassion and people who really are there for one another. From there, I decided in 2016 that I was done just sitting on the sidelines. I healed up, and then I woke up, and then I stepped up. Got involved in our Human Relations Task Force, got involved in homelessness, got involved more so in the executive board of my kids' PTO. And in that time, I realized that all that connecting the dots, it showed me that I had an opportunity to really make change in our community and in our city. I was able to develop relationships throughout city staff and council, and really see that, you know, we need leadership on the dais that is able to work together and to really demonstrate the values that I want to have in our city, and that I think so many other people in maybe the quieter majority want as well. And so that's why I'm here. I intend to make sure that we are able to be a city that we're proud of, encourage diversity, encourage dialogue and conversation, We need to make sure that we are helping our small businesses and our residents come out of this challenge of the pandemic with community support, with actionable plans and policies. And I truly do believe that we can build a brighter future for our city. We are a tourist city, and we need to make sure that we are a welcoming city, not only for the people who live here, but also for the people who want to come and spend their money and time here as well. So ultimately, you know, cancer took away my hair and my false sense of safety and immortality, but it gave me the gift and a sense of urgency. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm running this year. I want to make my kids proud. I want to make our community stronger, and I want to build a brighter future for our city.
Well, I want to thank all of you. You're all amazing candidates, but I especially thank you for spending your Sunday evening with me discussing the important issues facing Orange County residents and tourists and, you know, everybody who sets foot in our county. We have a lot of issues, and we definitely need more Democrats in office. So I wish you all the best of luck. For the volunteers out there, I would definitely suggest looking at every one of these websites and figuring out how you can get involved. Even though we're in COVID-19, there are ways to remotely organize or safely organize. For example, I just picked up a sign for a yard sign for Richard Hurt for Aliso Viejo City Council in a safe drop off where they put it in my trunk with contactless delivery. There are ways to help every single one of these campaigns. We are not done, and we absolutely need to change this thing that we do in Orange County where we're voting blue at the top of the ticket and red down the line, because that's nonsense and it's not working for us, and our county is going down the shitter, if you don't mind my expression. So let's get this done. We have some fantastic candidates running, and thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for participating in this. I think we did a great job. We had a great conversation. And you all have a lovely Sunday evening, and the best of luck to you on your campaigns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.